Caucus meeting to order. Michelle, please call the roll of members.
D'Amico.
Here.
Troyer.
Here.
Salvatore.
Here.
Mancini.
Here.
Bershio.
Here.
Powers. Here. Higgins.
Here. Item 2, approval of minutes of preceding meetings. Go to item 1, regular caucus meeting held on April 21st, 2015.
Motion accept as printed.
Support.
Motion accept is printed. Under discussion, properly seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the ayes have it. Go to item 3, under discussion. Item number 1, request for approval to construct a new 120-foot wireless communication tower at 16935 Hummel Road, Southwest Cab, located in the U5-C zone, referred by Planning Commission on May 5th, 2015. In attendance, we have Mr. Patrick Barone of BC Communications. You want to come up and give your name and address for the record, please?
Hello, Patrick Barron, 1046 Leonard Boulevard, Kent, Ohio, 44240.
Want to tell us a little bit about this tower and we'll open it up to members of council.
Sure. Client runs a local cab dispatch operation serving primarily Brook Park and Parma and the airport. And over time, the FCC has gone about limiting everybody's real estate in the sky and changing their spectrum and what they can do. So in an effort to stay with the push-to-talk solution, which is Department of Transportation certified, as opposed to trying to come up with some type of cell phone solution, to continue coverage footprint-wise for the area they serve, they need a taller antenna. The project was looked at doing, the client looked at doing this project in 2002, went through the entire approval process, but then at some point funding became difficult and it was tabled and then revisited here over the course of the last 2 years. And so that's kind of why we're here. They need coverage. They need coverage, and radio is the preferred method of operation. They're licensed. We've gone through FCC, Federal Aviation Administration, the FAA, and got all the ducks in a row to this point.
Jimmy Mancini, first, you from planning.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Pat, hi. Thanks for coming back again, and I am on a planning meeting. The question that the resident had, could you kind of maybe do a follow-up on that? I know we've referred this back to council and about the lady that came up, and I thought she had couple pretty good questions. Some of it with the interference, will there be a problem by the residential area freeway? And then I believe her other little concern was, something radioactive, something coming. Could you kind of fill us in on that a little bit real quick?
Yeah, it's interesting, and I'm, at some point when you talk about high-end technology and power, whether that be electric or nuclear or whatever, I'm a little bit of a layman, so effective radiated power.
Layman's terms would be fine.
The effective radiated power of this particular system has absolutely no bearing. It's directed primarily at electronic devices, meaning radios, that are set to a frequency and looking to pull it in. It's not some type of blanket coverage where it's not like electrical power grids where you hear the hum of the lines coming out and you wonder to yourself, what's going on there. This is point-to-point power. And spectrum is a federal issue, so they're pretty well on top of what it is that they're doing. As far as interference goes, it should have absolutely no bearing on anything outside of people that are operating on their specific frequency, which the FCC coordinated from Medina to Canada, and granted the license, so I'm expecting that there are no other operators on the specific UHF frequency that they were licensed for, so.
Well, I appreciate it, Pat, and maybe our law director Neil could concur. I think maybe when she looked up on that, I think she might have went to the wrong tower. You know, I think she was looking at them high tension wires, things of that sort, and that's obviously not what you guys have.
No, I mean, we have an antenna that's looking for the radios that are out there and riding what's called a sine wave directly to those places. It's not just an open mic blaring power,
Right.
you know, always hot. It's only hot when it's keyed up, and it's going straight to where it's being received at, so.
Okay, Pat, thank you very much. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Councilman Burgio.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Barron, this is going to be a new tower. Is there any way that they could have co-located on another cell phone tower, like some of the cell companies
No,
do?
because the client, number one, I believe the closest tower was only somewhere around 60 feet. Number two, it was cost prohibitive for their dispatch operation, which runs from the premises, provides control, safety, and some measure of profitability for the client. It's specific to their operation. It does require some backbone equipment that's relatively expensive, which will be, you know, inside one of their two buildings in their facility there, and not really practical to go off-site for that.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Councilwoman Powers.
Thank you, Mr. Barron. I wanted to know if the residents in that immediate area were notified that this is going to be going up, and
I believe the city sent out plenty of notification according to whatever standards they have. Most of the clients in the immediate, or several of the neighborhood are actual clients, and I'm sure thrilled to know that they're going to have these communications devices. They're safer and less crowded on the LTE and cellular networks. So, to my knowledge, they were all notified. We had at least one concerned resident at last week's, or 2 weeks ago when we were here last, and I believe she was informed as to what she was concerned about.
We can go to the law director and have him answer that for you.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Just to follow up, that for the planning commission meeting, there is a requirement that we send out a notice to people within a certain radius, and that was done. And as Mr. Barron related, we did have one lady come up who lived in the immediate neighborhood, as Mr. Mancini indicated, that had some questions. And Mr. Barron and the commission addressed those at the time. And she was invited to come back to this meeting tonight. So residents were notified at the planning commission level. Council is not required to give notice for this type of hearing. That really takes place at the planning commission level.
thank you, Mr.
You're welcome.
Anybody else? It's council's pleasure. This would go under verbal approval at the next regular council meeting, if that's your pleasure.
So moved.
Support.
Motion made, properly supported, under discussion. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, that'll be on the next council meeting in several weeks, under verbal approval. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
Good. Item number 2, yard waste, Councilman Troyer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Council, around April 8th, Council, the residents received the changes to yard waste flyer from the administration, which among other things informed them of the discontinuation of curbside yard waste collection. This was the first most council members had heard about this, and it came as a surprise because all sanitation, including curbside yard waste pickup, is clearly funded in the 2015 budget that the mayor agreed to and signed into law. Only the mayor knows for sure why he made such a drastic move affecting the quality of life of the residents and their ability to keep their yards in great looking shape through the summer, and why he did not inform council of these changes ahead of time. I have a resolution for introduction on tonight's council meeting asking the mayor to extend yard waste collection through June 30th. But I think that does not go far enough, so I'm asking the mayor to stop the madness and out of the budget that he signed, and that funds curbside yard waste pickup through the end of the season, and I'm asking council to support the continuation of curbside waste pickup through the end of the season. Thank you.
Councilwoman Powers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I too believe that since this was funded, we have the money for it. There is no reason for this. And not only is there no reason for it monetarily, but it's impossible to enforce it, because you have so many seniors that have given up their driving. They don't drive anymore, and they're in walkers, they're in wheelchairs. How are they supposed to get their garbage over there when the homeowner themselves are the only ones that are supposed to take it over there? So what's the person in a wheelchair supposed to do? Try to hitch a wagon to the back of the wheelchair and pedal it over there? Just does not make any sense. And as for parents that are working during the week and they have children, they'll have to say to their children, sorry, Susie, I can't take you to dance class. Sorry, Johnny, I can't take you to play ball because I've got to get over there and get in line to try to get our yard waste dumped. And it's logistically impossible. Can you imagine the traffic tie-ups all across town when you're trying to get down Holland Road to get to the service department to dump your waste? You've got people are going to be blocking every intersection because they don't want to be there. They don't want to be there longer than they have to be there, and don't want somebody to cut in front of them. And even if everything was neat and orderly, how many would you have to dump to get? How many people are working in this community? 5,000, 10,000 that are working Monday through Friday, all the hours that the station is open. And it's just impossible. Not only that, but the money that we're going to spend to have somebody checking to make sure that our photo ID or our ID and our address match. And then once they've got that matched, how in the world are they going to identify your grass from my grass in that container? So the whole thing is just totally, absolutely ridiculous. Yes, Mayor, it is ridiculous. And the reason I am making these statements is to show the ridiculousness of this. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Councilman Salvatore.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I understand what the resolution that Mr. Troyer wants to introduce, extending it 30 days. And I understand the reason for it. But I think just to push this back another 30 days, all we're doing is we're only kidding ourselves. This isn't a problem that needs to be pushed back. I think what we need to do is, the real solution to this problem is to get through this grass waste season and work on the real plan of solving the problem for the duration of our time here. Whether it's this council that's sitting here now, or I see a few candidates in the audience, or if it's the new people who want to sit up here are making that decision. But the real decision that we really have to deal with is how we're going to solve this problem now and into the future, so we don't have to sit here every 30 days and come up with a solution for the next 30 days. And I think by the end of this meeting, I'm hoping that there is some resolution to at least do this entire grass cutting season that the residents can be happy to hear. And I personally couldn't sit here and support something that's only going to solve the problem for 30 more days. We need to roll up our sleeves and get to the bottom of this. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. We'll go to Councilman Mancini.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, seeing how that's where I kind of came from, I don't know about maybe lines on Holland Road. I don't know about missing ball games, although that probably could happen. They'll make it a lot easier for themselves. They'll take a little look at the black can and they'll put that grass in a black bag and probably throw it into the black can. This is high time for grass, so it's going to start slowing down within a month or so. So they're going to save themselves that trip. And my kind of question, my kind of answer is, well, I'll concur with my colleague, Mr. Salvatore. We do need a long-term solution. And our previous council meeting, I asked the mayor, we talked about maybe possibly having a meeting to remedy this and maybe something for our street. So I'm looking forward to that meeting. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome. Councilman Schreier?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to make sure I was understood. My resolution was to add a month, but I've come to think about it, and I think, and since it is funded through the season, through the year, that we should have curbside yard waste pickup through the end of the season. Thank you.
Councilwoman Powers?
Yes, and then just in case somebody didn't understand what I was saying, I was agreeing with Councilman Troyer that yes, we are funded for the entire season. Let's use the funding that is there. Let's not waste more money by paying somebody overtime to sit there and check your ID to try to, the whole thing is just so ridiculous, it's laughable. I mean, who could have possibly come up with this idea, this plan anyway? It's just, no. We need to do away with it entirely. Next year, we'll face it if we don't have enough money. This year, we have enough money. We passed basically the same budget that we had in 2013 and in 2014. So the money is there. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Councilman Higgins?
Mr. Chairman, can we go to the mayor and find out what his plan is?
Sure, Mayor?
I'll give my plan on my mayor's report.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I thought maybe we just save some of this rhetorical conversation and comments in case the mayor has a plan here, and maybe we can move the agenda then and address it under the mayor's remarks.
Thank you, Councilman.
Need a motion that this was discussed.
So made, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Motion properly seconded under discussion. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the ayes have it. Go to item number 3. An ordinance authorizing the mayor to participate in ODOT Cooperative Purchasing Program for the purchase of sodium chloride, declaring an emergency, introduced by Mayor Coyne. Mayor Coyne.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We were notified by ODOT in order to participate in their summer purchase of salt. We've had to enact something by Monday, May the 18th. We went back and forth with their folks over there, and I finally talked to the boss. One individual indicated that if we didn't do it by the 18th, we were out. His boss, Mr. Price, said as long as council passed this evening and we got it to them this week, that would be okay. So there was some kind of breakdown in communication between them and us, and this is a program that's helpful for us to participate in, Mr. Chairman, as I think you know.
Motion to place on tonight's council agenda.
Support.
Thank you. It is a motion to place on tonight's council agenda. Properly supported. Councilman Salvatore.
One question prior to the vote. Mayor, would this allow us to purchase at this year's prices rather than?
I believe so.
Okay. That could be a tremendous savings based on past history. I think Dennis and Ryan, who's shaking his head no. It's not going to be a tremendous savings based on last year's prices.
Mr. Chairman.
Councilman Higgins.
Well, I'll give you bad news. Last year, the state price was like $47 and some change a ton. Their summer price this year through Morton was, you're not going to believe, finance director, close your ears, put your hands over your ears. It was $80 a ton. That's the summer fill-up price. The winter hasn't been bid out yet.
I talked to some of the contractors that are doing the work for us, and they're mentioning about they're building storage bins because they're gobbling it up, and I think it's $47 to $48 a ton right now.
That was last year's price. I'm telling you, the state bid out their summer price already. It was $80 a ton.
We're not, this isn't gonna allow us to buy at last year's prices.
Well, as Brian said, I'm not familiar with the program, because it's the first time I've dealt with this.
So if it passes,
Whatever the price is, the price is.
right,
I know that last year, some mayors were not in this program, and they were paying 90, they were buying it from landscapers.
Mr. Chairman, a few years back, there were a few cities that did not even get bids when they went out by themselves. This is the safest way to go out to bid. So I would implore our members of council to suspend this evening and get this passed.
and I agree with Councilman Davis. I would support this. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, there's a motion. Councilwoman Powers.
I will support it this evening because I have the thing from the Ohio Municipal League that says it was supposed to have been done yesterday. And I guess my question is, when do we usually do this? And why did it wait until the day after it was due to ask us to pass it? Why couldn't we have been asked a month or so ago? Because surely this deadline didn't come up yesterday. That's just my comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, there is a motion on the floor, properly seconded. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the ayes have it. That'll be ordinance number 9966-2015, the item number 2 under first reading. And we'll go to item 4, Finance Committee Chairman, Councilman D'Amico, and just for your information, we do have an addendum, and after you finish the first segment, we'll go out of regular order business to move the addendum, so you just continue on.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, appreciate that. Under tonight's agenda, as you see on the regular agenda, we have 5 items. If you go to page 2, the numerical order is out of order. There's first one is on the first page, second one on the first page, then the other ones are 3, 4, and 5, just for reference when we go through these, please. Okay, I'll bring the first item up tonight. An ordinance amending section 121.01A and B of the Brook Park codified ordinances relating to the president of council and members of council and declare an emergency, introduced by Tom Troyer. Councilman, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Council, it's too late to make this change for next term. Councilwoman Powers and I insisted that this legislation needed to be passed before May 10th to be in effect for the next term. This was at the last council meeting, actually the last caucus meeting. Other council members thought the deadline was June 10th, and the law director stated he did not know the answer and would research it. We now have the answer on, we all got it, I believe, on May 6th. The law director confirmed Councilwoman Powers and I's stance that it had to be passed by May 10th. So there's no way to get this done and change it for next term. So I move my motion to move this back to committee.
Mr. Higgins?
Mr. Chairman, I have a question on the motion.
Okay.
I know exactly what that law was. My question for Councilman Troyer and Councilwoman Powers is, how come they waited till the last minute to bring this out?
Anybody? Mr. Troyer?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The reason I waited because I thought that the chairman of this committee, Finance, Councilman D'Amico, would bring it out. I thought that it was in his committee and his right to bring it out, and I waited until I knew he wasn't and brought it out myself.
Okay, Mr. Troyer, I'd like to also comment myself, the chairman, you should, and you've been in this council 17 months now, and you should know, Mrs. Powers should know by right, and you could have called the chairman, Mr. Patton, and you and 2 other people could have pulled it on a committee, or, you know, however you'd like to at any time you wanted to. So just want to make that a reference that or called a special committee meeting, council meeting, you could have did that in 24 hours, and we could all signed off on it, and there would never been a problem.
That's correct. I support Mr. Power, Mr. Troyer's motion.
Okay, got a motion on the floor, to place it back in committee, properly seconded. Any questions on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Against, the ayes have it. That'll be placed back in committee. Go back to number 2 here, an ordinance amending section 121.01A and B of the Brook Park codified ordinances entitled Council Salary and declare an emergency, introduced by Council Members Salvatore and Burgio. Mr. Salvatore?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, this was dealing with the same topic of the previous ordinance that got placed back in committee. I think when Carl and I introduced this, our goal was to reduce the salaries and come up with a number of somewhere between $30,000 and $40,000 in reduction of expenditures based on salaries. But I do know that there are some amendments coming up, charter amendments that we're going to be discussing, so I would recommend that we just go back in committee, because I don't want to give up the opportunity to still reduce that number by some figure close to that goal of 30 to 40,000. And then we can always put this on, make any amendments to this, and have it ready for the next sitting council beyond November. So we have the time now to work on it, and I would recommend that we hold on to this and place it back in committee, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Salvatore. A motion on the floor, place back in committee?
Support.
A motion on the floor, properly seconded. Any questions on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Against? The ayes have it. That'll be placed back in committee. Number 3, an ordinance providing for the submission to the electric of an amendment to Article 4, Section 4.01 of the Charter of the City of Brook Park, Ohio, and declaring an emergency, introduced by Council members D'Amico, Patton, Higgins, Burgio, and Salvatore. I'll go ahead and speak on this a little bit right now. As you probably read the synopsis through that and read the actual ordinance providing for the change of council, this would reduce the council to 6 based on current census. We've taken a look at from 33,000 people once in the city down to 19,000. And at this point in time, we've reduced it down to 6 council people, 5 being at large, 1 council president. And at this time also, Mr. Salvatore, I want to get back what you're saying. You wanted to reduce the expense for council. We've all talked about this, and I appreciate your input. This would reduce council down to somewhat of expenses of $31,000. The good things about this, where there's been discussion on this immensely, is people will get the right to vote on the majority of council as they do now. They vote on 3 council large and 1 council ward, which makes 4 of the 7, which is a majority. And at this time, they will also still vote for the majority of council. And they also, people get the right to vote for all council representation, not just 3 at large, 1 council ward, and 1 council president. You'll vote for now 6 people total. The people who receive then more representation for less dollars, as you heard before, reduces it to $31,000. And we now not only will be able to call 4 people on your council, 3 at large and 1 council ward. You'll be able to call 6. All council representatives then also will have the idea that everything in the city that they decide is based on their seat being over the whole city, and rather than just a ward. And I think it's a win-win situation. I thank my colleagues for helping me in getting on this piece of legislation. Anybody like to comment?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Mr. Salvatore.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, I'm all in favor of reducing expenditures and taking a leadership role as a member of council, and taking the first step in the streamlining city government. However, I think that these next 3 pieces should be tied to the 2 that went back to committee, and that this is going to require some more work. This can't change a thing in the November election. November election will remain as it is. People that pulled petitions, they're going to be running in the wards. The large people who are going to run for the presidency. I'm not exactly sold on this identical footprint that's laid out here. I always thought that we should consider, I'm not saying we should do it, but I think we need some dialogue as to do we really need a president of council, or can the council president who doesn't vote come from the body like a lot of other cities do? I think Cleveland and several other cities, after they have their council seated for the new term, then that body would then elect a president, which would serve a dual role. For example, like Brian Higgins is our pro tem. He would be the Ward 4 councilman, and if the council elected him to serve as president, he would wear 2 hats. He'd run the meeting and still serve as the Ward 4 representative and still have a vote on this city council, which I think is very important. So I like the concept, that I'm glad we're having this meeting. I think it needs a little more tweaking, and I think it needs input from everyone as to how we change the makeup and how it best serves the community and the residents, giving the residents the opportunity to elect everyone or still keep their representative as their ward person, that one-on-one relationship that a ward councilman has with their residents. So I don't really think I'd want to move on this tonight, but I certainly would like to discuss this some more. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. And just to let council know and remind them, number 4 and 5 and the 3 pieces on the next addendum here we're going to be discussing shortly will be all moving parts of this piece, because of the fact that if you look in the charter and you've read the charter like everybody probably has, some of the pieces in the back and the front all go together, and when you make one change, they domino affect some other things as far as percentages, et cetera, for council. Mr. Mancini?
Thank you, Tim. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I concur again with my colleague, Mr. Salvatore. Now that this is open, now that everybody knows, and I believe this has been on discussion for a long time, yes, absolutely, we have to look at salary. 11 calls yesterday, Monday, only 2 today, and 8 were in my ward. So obviously I get called out of my ward. So there's a lot of ways to shuffle the deck on this, and I think it needs to be discussed. I think people like having a ward leader. I really do. At least that's what I hear. But as we walk now, we'll be able to hear. We'll be able to, ask and see what people think on this. So absolutely, I think we need some more time on this to discuss this a little more. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Anybody else? Ms. Powers?
Thank you, Mr. D'Amico. I think it should be left as it is. We need the representatives. Also, if you want to save the $30,000, then just cut our salaries, as Mr. Salvador suggested. He suggested cutting our salaries 30%. And I would be totally happy to take a 30% cut in my pay if every single elected official in this city took the same 30% discount. No, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Higgins?
Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to point out that at any given time, any elected official can donate back to the city any part of their salary that they deem they'd like to. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Salvatore?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate you bringing to the table the fact that all these amendments all are tied together, and that there's a lot of moving parts here. I've had several meetings with the law director as to why we can't put this all under one amendment. If one changes, they all change. I don't really agree right now. The law director seems to think that we must have each and every one of them individually. We've been through this before, where we've had several items on the ballot. 2 passed, 1 didn't, 4 passed, 2 didn't, and it took us a couple of terms to clean up the mess. So I personally would like to take a little more time working with the law department and trying to come up with a solution as to how we can put all these moving parts into one ordinance, and if it passes, everything changes in the charter rather than having to change 6 or 7 different articles and pray that they all pass. 1 passes, 2 don't, 3 passes, 1 don't, and we have another mess on our hands. And I think from the conversation that I've had with the Board of Elections, they always come back with the same answer. What does the law director say? So I think the law director really has to come up with the answer to this if he thinks that it's viable and we can make this happen under one charter amendment ballot language, and people only have to pick one time, vote on one issue that changes all the moving parts that affect the makeup of city council. I'm totally in favor of that, and I think we could work on that. And again, this doesn't have to be passed today, so the law director will have all the time in the world to research it, and I would personally like to see that happen too. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Salvatore, and I can appreciate that, and I do agree. I'd like to see the same thing at times. We discussed that at that point. Law Director Jamison, you want to go ahead and comment on that, though?
Yeah, please. I've talked to both yourself and Mr. Salvatore about this issue, and my initial research indicates that it's not as simple as just putting something on the ballot where then there's 7 different parts of the charter that all then click into place. The other parts of the charter that you'll see in the other pieces in the addendum and on the regular agenda today all talk about different things. The reason they need to be changed is that right now, as an example, some of them talk about the votes needed to suspend, the votes needed if you want to remove a councilman by fellow members, about making charter amendments, how many votes it takes. How many votes, or how many members does it take to call a special meeting? So the problem becomes is that they're different things. We're not talking about the size and composition of council as this piece right before us is talking about. This piece is saying right now we're going to reduce council from 8 members to 6. 5 will be elected at large who vote, and 1 council president who does not, unless there's a tie. Then to try and click in all these other things about how many votes does it take to suspend, how many votes does it take to call a special meeting, I just think it would be more cumbersome to the voters to look at that when it comes on the ballot, because then you would have like 6 or 7 different things in front of them. Shall it be amended to, change council from 8 to 6? In all that. In my mind, it would make it more confusing for the voters. I'll certainly look at it and talk to whatever member wants to discuss it with me. But my initial thought, and that's why we prepared it the way we did, is that these changes have to go in the, each one into place. The problem, not the problem, but if the scenario you play out where 1 or 2 pass and the other fail, or whatever combination you put in there, then we deal with it at that time. And, and as you said, we then go forward and maybe try and rectify it as time goes forward. I think the public would understand that all these are leading to the same thing about reducing the size of council. But I don't think it's as simple as saying we're going to reduce council from 8 to 6, and then all these other things click into place. And I think when we talk about the charter, we have to be careful, because that's like our constitution. It's not like, it is our constitution of our city. And I think we have to be careful anytime we go to amend it. So I understand the concern that we don't want to have this all chopped up, but I'll certainly talk with any member of council as we go forward in discussing this issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Neil. Just a real quick point of history about this legislation, so everybody understands, in the audience and here on council dais that hasn't been here. This is not a rush job on this. This has been discussed. I've been in 3 separate charter review commissions, 2001, 7, and 13. And this has been discussed, myself being on all 3 and chairing 2 of those, with 18 other residents that have been duly elected by the people. And it's been discussed over the years, this same piece, massaged around and tossed up and down and shook around to decide what's the best formula for this council reduction, whatever size or dollars it is. So anybody thinks that this is a piece that's just been brought forward tonight and trying to be pushed through in the next council meeting, it's not, that's not true at all. It's been here for many, many years, discussed through many councils, many people representing the Charter Review Commission. So we get that out there. Okay, council, what's your pleasure?
Motion to place back in committee.
Supported.
Got a motion to place back in committee, properly supported. Any questions on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Against? The ayes have it, they'll be placed back in committee. Number 4, an ordinance providing for the submission of the electorate of the amendment to Article 1502 of the Charter of the City of Brook Park, Ohio, and declaring emergency, introduced by council members D'Amico, Patton, Higgins, Burgio, and Salvatore. Again, as you heard, these next pieces are just moving parts of the item we just discussed, and the law director just educated you on would change different portions and parts of percentages to make sure that the first piece is enacted correctly.
Motion to place back in committee.
Supported.
Motion on the floor, properly seconded, placed back in committee, into discussion. Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Against? The ayes have it, they'll be placed back in committee. Number 5, an ordinance providing for the submission to the electorate of an amendment to Article 16 of Section 1601 of the Charter of the City of Brook Park, Ohio, and declaring an emergency, introduced by council members D'Amico, Patton, Higgins, Burgio, and Salvatore. Council? Yes.
Motion to place back in committee.
Support. Got a motion to place back in committee, properly supported. Any questions on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Against? The ayes have it, they'll be placed back in committee. Mr. Chairman, we need a motion to go back to the next addendum. That's all I have at this point.
I need a motion to go to the addendum. There was a mistake made where these other 3 pieces should have been placed on the Finance Committee as well.
So made, Mr. Chairman.
Support. The motion made, properly supported, under discussion. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
D'Amico.
Back to the addendum here, number 1 through 3. We have on this tonight an ordinance providing for the submission of the electorate to the amendment of Section 4 Article 4, Section 4.05, the Charter of the City of Brook Park, Ohio, declaring an emergency, introduced by Councilman D'Amico, Patton, Higgins, Burgio, and Salvatore. Council? Again, these are the moving parts of number 1. If you're
Move to place back in committee.
Support.
got a motion on the floor, properly seconded. Any questions on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Against, the ayes have it, that's placed back in committee. Number 2, an ordinance providing for the submission to the electorate of an amendment to Article 4, Section 4.08, the Charter of the City of Brook Park, Ohio, declaring an emergency, introduced by Councilman D'Amico, Patton, Higgins, Burgio, and Salvatore.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Mr.
Motion to place back in the committee.
Support.
Got a motion on the floor, properly seconded, placed back in committee. Any questions on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Against, the ayes have it, it'll be placed back in committee. Number 3, an ordinance providing for the submission to the electorate of the amendment to Article 4, Section 4.09 of the Charter of the City of Brook Park, Ohio, and declaring an emergency, introduced by Councilman D'Amico, Patton, Higgins, Burgio, and Salvatore.
Motion to place back in the committee.
Support.
Got a motion on the floor to place back in committee, properly supported. Mr. Salvatore.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
If I may, just for the sake of the audience, for everyone here tonight, these last several items that we're going back into committee are all the moving parts that the chairman was referring to that I would like to see consolidated into one charter amendment that would change all these at the same time if this should move forward, just so everybody understands what we're doing up here tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Salvatore. Again, motion on the floor, properly seconded. Any questions on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Against, the ayes have it. That'll be placed back in committee. And that is all I have tonight, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilman. We'll go to item number 5, Legislative Committee Chairman, Councilman Troyer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Legislative Committee has 4 items on tonight's agenda. First item is a resolution honoring Kathy Stadahar for being nominated as 2015 Citizen of the Year and declaring an emergency, introduced by Councilman Salvatore.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think it speaks for itself. I think this is an opportunity for us to recognize the selection of the co-chairman. There's 2 people. As we go through the chairman's agenda here, you'll see there's another person coming up. And I'd like all members of council to co-sponsor this with me if they would like to, including the mayor.
Is everyone?
Thank you. Motion to place on tonight's council agenda.
Support.
Motion to place on tonight's agenda, properly supported. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Thank you. Moving on. A resolution honoring Jan Skinner for being nominated as...
Councilman,
Thank you.
that'll be resolution number 12-2015, the item number 3 under first reading.
Okay, thank you. A resolution honoring Jan Skinner for being nominated as 2015 Citizen of the Year and declaring an emergency, introduced by Councilman Salvatore. Councilman Salvatore?
It's pretty much the same thing. I want to invite everybody to co-sponsor this, and legislation speaks for itself. All members want to be on there. Great.
What's your pledge?
Unanimous. Again, I'd like to place on tonight's council agenda. I'm not sure if there's going to be suspension involved, so I'd like to get at least first reading started.
Any support on that?
Place on tonight's council agenda.
Support. Properly supported. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it.
Resolution number 13-2015.
Thank you. Number 3, a resolution honoring Don and Holly Rudy on celebrating 2 golden anniversaries and declaring an emergency, introduced by Councilman Salvatore. Again, Councilman Salvatore.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm sure everybody here, especially the longtime residents that have been around as long as I have, remember this is Ed and George's Barbershop. It was one of the first tenants in Brookgate when it was first built, back when we were still a village. And for them to still be there and to be doing a great job and to be part of this community and to be celebrating 2 golden anniversaries at the same time, I think it's something that we should recognize. Again, I'd like to invite all members of council and the mayor to support this resolution, and I'd like to make a motion also to place this on tonight's agenda so we can get first reading moving.
Pat, do you want to take some co-sponsors on this?
Yes, I do.
Anybody? Everybody. Thank you. Okay, motion made to place on tonight's council meeting. Anybody second? Oh, I'm
A
sorry.
second.
Excuse me. Did you want to say something?
I did. I actually, after the first one, just real quick, all 5 great people. I mean, I grew up here, was born here, And all 5 people, I actually nominated Kathy Studahart. They contribute a lot to Brook Park, and I think that's a lot more what we need. And I'm very proud for all 5 of them, so I'm glad you guys put this under suspension. This is great. It's a good award, and glad we're doing this.
Did I get a second on that? Motion,
I second.
You second it, okay. Motion to place on tonight's agenda, council agenda, is properly seconded. Anybody all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
That's everyone.
Resolution number 14-2015.
Thank you. Number 4, a resolution honoring Samantha Rocco for being accepted into the Junior Statesman of America Summer School Program at Princeton University and declaring an emergency. Introduced by Councilman Salvatore. Mr. Salvatore?
Thanks again, Mr. Chairman. This is, again, another opportunity for the council and the mayor to recognize a talented individual. I don't know if anybody is familiar with this Junior Statesman of America summer program. It's sponsored by Princeton University. This is the first time anybody from the Berea system has been accepted into this program. This young lady happens to be a lifelong resident of the city, born and raised here. For the opportunity to serve in this capacity and to be accepted is quite an honor. There was 800 applicants from around the world, not just from the United States. And she happened to be one of the recipients. Obviously, all 800 didn't get this opportunity, but I think 200 did. It's a summer program that she's actually going to be receiving college credit from Princeton as she is attending the new Berea Mid-Park as an 11th grader. So I think it's something that we should recognize, and hopefully in the future there'll be other students of ours that have this opportunity as well. And Mr. Chairman, I again like to see some co-sponsorships, and invite the mayor and all members of council who would like to participate.
Who would like to be co-sponsors? Is everyone?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, members of council, and thank you, Mayor.
What's council's pleasure?
Motion to place on tonight's agenda.
Support.
Motion placed on tonight's council agenda, properly supported. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
That's everyone. Guys have it? Sorry. That's 2015?
Correct.
Thanks.
Resolution 15.
Okay, that's it. I want to thank council.
Thank you, Councilman. But item number 6, Recreation Committee Chairman, Councilman Bergio.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just have one item today. Resolution designating the month of July as Parks and Recreation Month in the city of Brook Park, declaring an emergency, introduced by Councilman Bergio. We do this every year. We've done this for a number of years, and we want to promote our recreational programs in parks and recreation. It's very valuable to our residents, families. As I walk the neighborhoods, it's still important to a lot of families, and they always ask me about the programs and so forth. So we just want to invite people to take part in our recreational programs and enjoy our parks and recreation facilities as well. So with that, just any comments from council at this point?
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Salvatore.
One quick question. I remember over the years when Danny Colonna was sitting up here and he represented the Rec Commission as you are now. He always did this every year. Was it always in July? Or did
Always,
we move it around?
it's always been July as far as my recollection is.
All right, that's fine.
Okay,
Okay.
a long time.
I make a motion to place on tonight's council agenda.
Support.
Motion is made and properly seconded to place on tonight's council agenda.
Mr. Chairman, are you accepting co-sponsors on this?
Sure. Unanimous. Motion is made and properly seconded to place on tonight's council agenda. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the ayes have it. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, that'll be resolution number 16-2015 on tonight's agenda under first reading. Okay, seeing no further business, we'll adjourn the caucus meeting.